Guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. Super excited to have somebody on today that I've actually never spoken to before. We've just caught up quickly before this call, which has been, a bit of fun. Devin, I hope I'm not gonna butcher your name, and I always do this. I always forget to ask people how to say your surname. Bramhall.
Yeah,
Bramhall.
and actually, it's an English name, and so I think you're Irish, right?
I'm Irish. Yeah.
So you're like primed. You're like close. Like you're primed to pronounce that right.
Absolutely.
Everybody else makes it more complicated or more fancy. They're like Bramhall.
Yeah. No, Bramhall.
It's just Bramhall.
Bramhall. This is perfect. It's perfect. Because
Yeah.
I had somebody on the other day that was like, the name looks super easy to say. And then I said, no, that's completely off. I was like, shit. I was like, this is like, no, you're supposed to say it with a French accent. And I was like, oh, okay. This was unexpected.
I've been there.
So anyway, let me give you a quick intro before we get into it. So Devin Bramhall, CEO and also podcast host at the moment, CEO of Animalz. Devin's career stems back to all different types of roles. So I'm going to go through the long list of roles that you have here. So start off with a fashion show producer, which is cool, right?
Yeah. I was right out of college.
Exactly. Then onto operations. So you did a number of operations gigs, operations administration, etc. Then community manager. Seeing there was a couple of community manager roles in there. Product marketing, founder, general marketing, so marketing manager. Then you went VP marketing, which was also at Animalz. Then you went into also content roles you've been in as well. And now you are the CEO of Animalz.
Formerly CEO.
Formerly CEO.
Yeah. Yes. Now I'm just doing, not just, but I'm doing the solopreneur life, kind of growth advising for agencies and startups.
Tell me the types of companies that you work with.
So the primary customer that came to me after I left Animalz were agency founders who wanted to know how the heck I grew Animalz in, from 0.7 or so to 12 million in 3 or 4 years. The secret is there was a little bit of timing on my side, but we did a lot of things right operationally. And so there was a lot of value I could offer them and just the table stakes of building and running a business. And then on the startup side, I come in as a fractional support person. So like at Cisco, I helped support the director of marketing, run her giant DevRel marketing team, run all the sort of, it's like a fractional CMO type role. And then for smaller startups, it's really helping them figure out what their founding marketing strategy should be, the team that they need, help them just focus on the things that will have impact, not spread themselves thin budget wise and activity wise on just like following best practices of marketing, which actually I have to say I saw on your website and I was like, immediately fell in love with you guys because I was like, oh my gosh, there's no out of the box solution. And you're like, it's different for everybody. And I was like, yes, you get it.
Exactly. So like what you do and how you operate, you basically operate in the same space that we operate in, right? But I think nowadays there's so much opportunity for people like us at the minute. And I think it's because of that, right? So what you just mentioned there, it's a full-time resource that I see going into organizations nowadays have to play a game a little bit where they have to pretend like there is a one-size-fits-all approach for everyone, and you need to have this like funnel of leads, MQLs, SQL, sales accepted leads, opportunities, meetings, etc. And it needs to you need to say, okay, well, I want to invest X in LinkedIn, therefore I need to be able to prove it's going to drive this amount of opportunities. Absolute horse shit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But when you're going into an organization, I think or as a full-time person, you have to play this game a little bit, like where you're like, oh yes, of course, Mr. CEO, I fully agree with that because you've seen that somewhere 20 years ago on a stage somewhere at some conference, right?
Exactly. Margaret, the co-host of my podcast, we were at a tech conference in San Francisco in 2022. And we were literally sitting behind these two people who were like taking pictures of a marketing slide. And we were like, how much do you want to bet that they're sending it to their head of marketing right now, being like, we should do this?
Drives me nuts.
Honestly, I think there is like the thing about what I do that I really like is I'm sort of constantly working myself out of a job. right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the person, because I don't come with an agency, I have a little more flexibility. And so I can kind of say, like, I can give them the tough love, the honesty, the reality. I'm like, listen, you got yourself in a pickle here. And this is what you need to fix. This is really what you need. And you can get it affordably. And then at that point, I'm sort of the trust builder for agencies, where I can be like, look, they're like, agencies, I don't know how to manage them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's easy. I'll get like, and they trust the agencies that I refer. And so it ends up being this like either an agency or a freelancer or whatever. I'm like the gateway to others people's long-term
Mm-hmm.
work, which
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like, because I'm like always giving business away. I'm like, oh no, this person, like they're so, because I think there is a lot of issues around trust in the marketing area, full-time agency, whatever, because no founders know anything. Most founders don't know anything about marketing. They're getting advice from VCs who also don't know anything about marketing, but think they do. And then their other founder friends who similarly maybe had a product at the right place, right time. It did really well. And now they think they're marketing geniuses, but really they're not. And so like there's just so much you're battling against as a marketer. And there's a place for people like me who, because I don't work for anything bigger than myself, I'm like, listen, I don't care if you do this or not, but like this is what you need to do.
That's fair. It's fair. Like this, I hear so much similarities. That's why we started Purple Path, right? So my background is I was a full-time CMO for a number of years, then I went and did the fractional CMO thing, which I still do, right? And I wanted to find something that was, or I had some projects that started to come on where I was like, hey, can you bring in some people that, or can you work with a ton of different agencies that will like run a marketing project? And I was like, well, I can sort of do that, yes, but I'll only bring in people that I know and trust, which I started to do. And then the people that I know and trust, after working on many projects together that was successful, I said, okay, well, let's create a new business, which is not just me in the focus, but like this thing in a focus, right? And that's where we started Purple Path from, with those guys from the other agency. So we're like a collective now, let's say. So it's
And
like,
that's the way you build word of mouth. Like
yeah,
Animalz grew on first the reputation of the founder. And then when they brought me in, I remember Walter would just put me on sales calls. She used to work at Help Scout. She ran content at Help Scout. And so you build that trust, and therefore the agency then gains trust, and people start coming to you organically, whether they know you or not, because that feeling of trust surrounds you based on what you built the agency, what and who you built the agency on.
yeah, it's also super interesting. Something that you pointed out there before is like not being afraid to give advice that can put you out of a job. I actually found the more advice that I gave that could put me out of a job has actually kept me in a job longer.
I still land customers that way. Like I would talk to some, because I would get on sales calls semi-frequently at different times. And I remember telling someone once, like, you don't need us right now. No. Or like wait a few months and whatever. And they were like, that made them want to work with us.
Yeah, and you're like, no, actually, no, this is a bad idea. It's a bad idea from all of us because you're not gonna be
Yeah.
happy.
I'm
Yeah,
like, we're too expensive. Or like, we're too expensive for you. You actually can do it for less, right? Like we're for a company stage
yeah,
that's like, and so they were like, but we want to work with you, which then kind of bites you in the ass, because sometimes those people, then they realize like, oh, the pace at which you do work, the quality level that you're
hmm,
at, like we don't need this yet. But it's like,
yeah.
it's wild. Yeah. Telling the truth is really the way to go, because ultimately what I find is I weed out potential customers who I wouldn't even want to work with. And then you're attracting those that you do want to work with.
And there are plenty of those that you don't want to work with, and you don't want to figure that out too late, which is a painful experience that everybody's going to go through at some point because you're going to be money hungry at some point. You need to make sure that you're getting money into the bank, keep the lights on.
Seriously.
But that's my job in our organization, is to make sure that we're not working with those, because people are like, oh no, it's money, money, money. I'm like, no, like this is going to end in tears, and I'm going to be the person that's going to have to wipe up all those tears. And I don't want to be that person. And I don't want to be the person jumping on calls with this client that's disgruntled because of X, Y, Z, or the expectations were incorrect, whatever. So
You end up
yeah.
losing money too, because the
Yeah.
amount of time it takes to realize they're not a fit, then do something about it and figure out, like, it's just, you can take a reputation hit unnecessarily because
Yeah.
of their, I mean, I definitely, there was a agency I was helping out earlier this year. And I remember we had there was a whole list of people that were just like, it's better to just piss them off and exit than keep them on, because we could even I had a spreadsheet showing the amount of money we were losing on them in terms of team hours. And so it's like, you gotta have that mindset of like, this is a business. Your perspective has to be way higher than right in front of your face, right? You have to be looking off in the distance and be able to say like, oh, this is just a bad business idea, this customer.
Yeah, and even some of them as well are like, they might even look like a good idea at the time, but like getting rid of this is a nice bridge into the next topic now. Wait till you see this. You ready for it?
I love this stuff. I'm a big fan. I can't wait.
You've written a fair bit about having a good time. Am I having a good time? So this is like, see that for a bridge, right? So I told Devin before this that I was going to bring this up as one of the topics, right, today, is having a good time. And it just so perfectly came in there, you know? So I'm super proud of myself.
That's the kind of thing I appreciate too. Like, I've called Margaret on that before. I'm like, is that a bridge? If I ever saw one, like, pro shit right there.
Look at that. That's Tonight level type of stuff, you know? Tonight show even. But so look, you've spoken about it a fair bit about like asking yourself the question, am I having a good time here? Right? So I've seen you put something out on LinkedIn. So when we're talking about like, let's say like, and I've had this, you have something that you think is a good fit, but I've been in the position in the past year, right, where we had to let go a customer actually, because I was like, this customer's absolutely fucking killing me. Like this is excuse my French, by the way, apologies, I'm Irish. Lindsay probably should have warned you before.
I'm American and I swear all the time.
Fine, good. But yeah, like where you're in a situation where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, okay, money's coming in, great, whatever, but like, I'm fully of the opinion, and it's more solidified now than ever, that you should never do anything just because of money. Money should never be the starring role in why you're doing something.
Yes.
But tell me, like, some of your experience with that. Like, are you having a good time, and when did you ask yourself that question, etc.?
Yeah. So my version of doing it for the money was doing it for success. I had this idea of what me as a successful person looked like and what I needed to be to call myself that, and the way I needed to show up in the world. And I made the additional mistake of believing that that was like what would make me like a worthy human being, you know, like worthy of love, worthy of the things that I wanted. And that's just young, ambitious person stuff, right? That I thankfully was able to shed finally after Animalz. But I mean, to be honest, it took getting cancer twice in 2 years for me to really like realize that I was killing myself for these goals that weren't even serving me. And I didn't even realize it, right? It wasn't like it wasn't conscious. And so I think what I've been trying to be careful about since is, even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do next when I quit, I had no plan. I literally put this post out on LinkedIn. I was like, hey guys, I left. It was great. Look at how successful I was. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing next. And so like, just no clue. I'm not even incubating anything, like blank slate. I don't know. And I really meant it. And so along the way, having enjoy myself be a goal, it helps guide me, because the world I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm motivated, you know, like I like challenges. So it can kind of carry me in directions that maybe don't end up serving me. And so I'm just more conscious now, like, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying this? And that helps me orient these new opportunities that come my way and make sure that I shed the ones that aren't serving me. Because you're right. Sometimes you just have to do it to know. Like, you don't always know at the jump, right? And proactively say no to the ones that I know for a fact. And some of it is about money. Like I had to make the decision this year, or for 2025, that I was like, I can't take a deal that's below my minimum. I can't compromise. I don't have the money for it, because I was a woman working in tech who, despite heavy negotiation in my favor, like I never made like groundbreaking money. And even though I was good at saving it, getting cancer, really, I had to like basically liquidate what I had saved. And so I was like, okay, it doesn't matter if I want to do this or not. It doesn't matter if I think the person is worthy. The business decision that I have to make for my own life and my own like literal health is I have to take deals that are a minimum amount,
Mm-hmm.
and I can only take this many deals at a time because
Mm-hmm.
my energy is not what it used to be.
Mm.
And so I think that's like I think why I bring that part of it up is that I think that's an important component of understanding what having a good time means. It's not
Yeah.
about necessarily just about play or like, oh, do I get to go do stuff? It's like, am I having a good time in my life? And that means managing the things that are causing you stress and knowing that you can't prevent stress,
Mm.
but you can do a lot to manage it around your life so that you feel a sense of equilibrium day to day. And for me, that's part of my ability to have a good time.
Absolutely, like 100% wholeheartedly agree with everything you've just said there, by the way. I feel the exact same. I feel like 100% the same way. Like money is important. You need to put your point there on knowing your worth as well, right? And saying like even as of today, I've had people come back to me with negotiations like you've offered this price, can you go down to this because our budget's for next year or lower? Absolutely not. Sorry. And that's like a thing that I've done since the beginning, and I'm very open what I charge. Like I have it on the website and everything. This is how much you charge. Like this is how much it costs, and it's the same price for everyone. If you don't like it, sorry, that's it's not going to work.
It's your business
Yeah,
model, right? Like your business
yeah,
model is based on that. And a business model includes delivering to the value that you're charging. And there, like you said, there's so many other options out there. There's so many more people who are working fractionally, or there's more agencies than there ever have been before. So it's like there are options for them at the price tier that they can afford. And so
yeah.
it doesn't you'll just I mean, when I got to Animalz, God, we were charging next to nothing. Our process was so rigorous. I was like we had to make changes because I was like, we can't be delivering this much and
Yeah.
only charging
Charging
like.
this is ridiculous. It's
So it's
like
like I think that's important, and I think that the agency's worth their salt. Under like yours, they understand that, and they're like, oh no, I'm providing the value that I'm charging here for, which means I'm just not a fit for you.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, but actually, the majority of times when they do come in and they are a fit and they push back on pricing, you say no, they still work with you anyway for the price
Yeah.
that you first asked for. That's all, like but that's just how it is. The
If
thing
you're
is, people.
good, they're gonna wanna work with
That's
you.
the
They're gonna
thing.
wanna do what they
That's the thing.
can.
That's the thing. That's the thing. But hey, look, we just backtrack a little bit. So you've mentioned you've been ill a couple of times in the past couple of years. How are you doing now? You doing good?
It's funny. Cancer is a really hard question. Health is a hard question to answer when you've had cancer because it's like when people ask you while you're going through chemo, for example, how are you doing? I'm like, I can't answer that question. I can tell you how I'm doing right now. And so similarly, I am currently cancer free, which is great.
It's awesome.
They discovered that I'm more likely to get these two other types of cancers, the
Okay.
two that I have not gotten yet.
Okay.
And
Wonderful. Yeah.
so by like having these two cancers and having them do the genetic study, now I'm on a more aggressive monitoring
Okay.
schedule,
Yeah.
which means we're on a preventative type
Okay.
plan for me, which increases my odds of remaining cancer free or cancer excuse me, catching anything early enough that I will
Yeah.
ultimately be fine.
And that's ultimately the most important point there, catching it early enough, right?
Yep.
That's the
That's
thing.
why I
Like,
survived the last one I had. The last one I had has a very, very poor prognosis in that you die,
what
likely,
type of
but
cancer was it, if you don't mind me asking? What
it
type?
was ovarian cancer,
Okay.
and it was like the things that made it's like there was an anaplastic something, and then there was
Okay.
some other these like the modify I don't know. This is beyond my pay grade, but like the two modifiers to the type of ovarian cancer I had were the ones that made it particularly deadly in that it doesn't show up in typical scans. It spreads a lot. It moves fast. It's very severe. But because they caught it so early, I wasn't at that stage. Because usually by the time they catch it, it's too
Yeah,
late.
it's too
But
late.
because I was at this early stage, they were like, we just have to burn the house down inside your body to make sure we killed it. Because we don't necessarily know where all of it is. And so it's like, so yeah, I was very, very lucky. Like very lucky.
And they basically just nuked you then. And then that
Yeah.
was okay. Shit.
Yeah.
Like, and when did you finish your treatment?
I finished my treatment. Sorry, I have a cold and I realized that I just blew my nose on the podcast. That is a
Absolutely
new
fine.
low for me.
It's absolutely fine. I'm sure. Any of it is just on audio is going to. That's all good.
My God, that is so funny. Wait, so sorry. What was the question
When,
you
when
asked?
when did you finish your treatment?
February 1st of this year.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's awesome
Yeah.
that you're still cancer free. That's the most
Yeah.
important thing, right? Like cancer
Yeah.
free, those words are the most important thing. And I think,
It's so true. And cancer
yeah,
patients are some of the happiest people you'll ever meet because they're like, they've seen the actual precipice. And so they're like, "Oh, these problems, like most of these problems we thought were problems are not. Like most of the world doesn't have actual problems or they do but they're not focused on them. They're focused on these like menial things that are like very solvable. And so it's like easier you just sort of walk around with a different perspective. And I think that really helps balance out the physical struggles, the mental challenges, like all the stuff that goes along with it. You get this
yeah.
really nice balance of feeling a freedom that I'm pretty sure I didn't expect to have until I was like 80.
That's the thing. It's like you put into perspective what matters, what doesn't matter, right? I think there's big life events just happen to have that effect, like that's obviously something that scoped you now or shaped
Yeah.
you,
Like
for the
there is a
future.
light in things that in the bad in the unfortunate things
100%.
that happen. And it's not, trying to have rose-colored glasses to have that perspective. I was grateful for the positives that came out of this
Mm,
because otherwise the alternative is I'd be just straight miserable and resentful of what happened. And I was like, there were
mm.
gifts and I recognized them and I'm so grateful for them.
100%. 100%. I like it's funny what a shit situation will do to your perspective, right? It's like, and it's not even something that you're like, you really like feel like you're actively thinking or doing something towards. Like it just automatically happens to you. How it works within your brain, like how the body reacts to certain things. It's the same with grief, right?
Yeah.
So I've never had cancer, but I lost my youngest brother a number of years ago. He died in an accident in the States, right? And that was like our whole world fell out from underneath us, right? But it was like when you're talking about what you're comparing to there now, which is it's a different situation, but similar in terms of how it
Oh yeah.
shaped me, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And how I reacted to that is like how you like the way you described it there, like how you think about certain situations and perspective on things. It's not that you're just like, oh, I had this thing happen to me, so now I need to look at things the other way. It just like automatically, just like like your body just does this reaction where it's like, oh shit, this is it now. This is how life works, and you're like, and you're sort of learning from yourself almost. That's what I
Yeah.
found. I was like, holy shit, like where's this coming from? Because so many people, the thing that I always hate as well, people coming to me and being like, oh, I don't know how you're managing this, like I'd never be able to manage this. I'm like, first of all, that's not fucking helping.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's like
What choice did you have?
it's just one of those things, but your body just like, or your brain, like mind, everything just adapts like automatically. It automatically bounces back. Like there's no, like it's within us as humans. I think this is something I've learned. It's within us as humans, regardless of whatever shit's thrown our way.
And the only thing that makes me like my only wish of what could have been different is that I think more people can choose to feel okay and choose to have a different perspective on their lives day to day. But it actually like made me sad that it took this much to get me there. I thankfully had a coach who really helped me develop that muscle pre-cancer. Her name's Cecilia Landholt, and like she taught me to be the best like business strategist and like happy person in the world. But I think like, you can teach yourself that without a complete disaster. It's just that it takes work. Like, and so the way to avoid having tragedy shape your having a good time is to make decisions on your own behalf, including your mental state.
Mm.
And I remember during the pandemic when I was leading Animalz, there was like, how everybody was just like upset. Like our entire team just like wanted to be mad all the time. And I was just like, fine, whatever. And I remember there was this period where they were like, oh, like the CEO is always a target, but they're like, she's gaslighting, like positivity, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what would you rather? Like, do you want me to sit around and like tell you to be miserable all the time? Like, I personally
Yes.
would
Yes.
like to feel good. And so like I will grasp at whatever straw gives me that feeling, even if it's for 5 minutes. Right. And you can acknowledge the hard stuff and still make a choice to be like, you know what? Like that meme of the little dog and there's fires all around him and he's like, this is fine.
This is fine.
That
Yeah.
is actually like very Buddhist because I'm like, that
Yeah.
that is Zen right there. You're like, honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah, exactly. And those people, it's the people that are giving out and being angry the whole time. They're the guys. Have you ever seen the meme with the guy like falling off his bike, but he's
Yeah.
the person that's putting like the stick in between the spokes and the wheel? You know, just like yeah, people, man. It's like we love to be miserable, but like perspective is a great thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the key is that you just hit it there. It's work, you know. So regardless if it's something that's from an like something that you can't impact or that you can't control, for example, a life-changing event, whatever, that is essentially work that you have to deal with it because it's been thrown your way. Either you trigger it by setting the work out for yourself by going and speaking to somebody about it, or alternatively life just throws shit your way, which you're just going to have to deal with, which is inevitably going to happen to everybody at some point in their lives, right?
It's also PS a business strategy. I can't tell you the amount of time I spend with clients helping them see the same situation as an opportunity. I'm like, wait. Like, you're thinking about this in this one, like you're choosing to think about it in a way that is negative and you're missing the opportunity. And so if you can really start to master it in your personal life, it starts to alter your approach to business and make you much better at it, both on your own behalf and in your role. It's like, especially as marketers, right? Do you like this one? I just brought it all the way the fuck back. I'm so proud of this one.
You're doing the closing argument here. Come on, bring it in. Yes, reel it in.
Marketers encounter a ton of resistance and pushback to doing their jobs. It's like part of the marketing role. You brought it up at the very beginning, right? And so having that ability to take a step back from situations, look for the opportunity, even when everything around you is burning. The CEO's screaming at you. The CTO thinks they know your job, like all that stuff. If you can take a step back and find the strategy in that, you're unstoppable. And that's literally all I do, right? Like that is what an advisor does for other people. Do it for yourself and your career is going to be way easier.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Growth Path. Thank you for listening. Drop that, doing it. That was awesome. I fully agree, by the way. I fully agree. I find like even with myself nowadays, in certain roles, you may feel the same based on what you've just said, is that I'm almost like a CEO counselor at points where I'm just like helping them see in a different way exactly what you've just said.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Okay, I have to be rude and leave.
I need to go as well.
Yes.
Need to go.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Let me know anything I need to know around like release date or whatever, and I'll promote the hell out of it, obviously, when it comes out. So just whatever you need, let me know. Okay,
Devin,
awesome. It was so good to see you. This was really fun. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.